I am merely an orphan raised in the Prince of Jingyuan's mansion. Yet I have long harbored feelings for Fu Lin, the heir to the estate. I know he does not care for me, yet I persist in throwing myself into the flames like a moth, even resorting to any means necessary. With a single dose of aphrodisiac, I became his wife as I had wished. Everyone despised me. Even the Princess of Jingyuan, who had always doted on me, was utterly disillusioned with me. I didn't care about others' gazes. The only person who mattered to me was Fu Lin. I thought that time would foster affection, and that I would eventually win him over. But as time passed, all my youthful infatuation was worn away. I despaired. I screamed. I was a shadow of my former self. He simply sat calmly at his desk in the study, as if watching a madwoman. Isn't all of this exactly what you wanted? You've secured your position as Crown Prince's consort. What more could you possibly want? A snowy night carried my life away so gently. If I could live this life over, I would stay in my place and never fall in love with him again. Main text. This year's winter snow is exceptionally cold. Crown Prince, the lady from Lushu Pavilion, has passed away. Fu Lin's hand paused, and the ink at the tip of his brush congealed into a droplet that spread across the official document. Is this another act? She had staged such scenes countless times before. 10 years ago, she drugged him and climbed into his bed. Though furious, he married her for his mother's sake. She should have kept a low profile, content to live quietly in her corner as the Crown Prince's consort, a title she had secured through her cunning schemes. But her greed knew no bounds. Day after day, she sought new ways to cause a scene. Even knowing he would never come to her chambers, she still would not let it go. His daily official duties were so demanding that he simply could not spare the time to play these childish games of love with her. This time, it's not a show. That one slit her wrists. The snow is covered in blood. When she was found, her face was already deathly pale, and she was already dead. A snowflake drifted in through the window and landed on the desk. He brushed it away with his sleeve. Light and airy, utterly indifferent. He said, "Give her a proper burial." His tone was cold and detached, as if the one who had died was not his wife, but merely a stranger. As the sole son of the Duke of Jin, the weight of his family's legacy forbade him from indulging in human emotions. She should have known long ago that the love she sought, he could never give. That things had come to this was, in the end, entirely her own doing. Scattered snowflakes drifted through the streets. Looking out, he saw the bustling scene, the streets teeming with people. It was the Lantern Festival once again. Miss, congratulations on solving the riddle. Here is your rabbit lantern. I stood frozen in place, hesitating to take it. Miss, what are you waiting for? Take it. This is the grandest prize. My maid Xiaotao called out to me. I snapped back to reality, turned to look at her, and tears welled up in the corners of my eyes. Xiaotao, it really is you. Being the Crown Prince's consort is no easy task. Fu Lin's courtyard is as impenetrable as an iron barrel. Those who wish to harm him cannot break in, so they redirect their fury toward me. Xiaotao took a knife blow for me, her blood staining my entire arm red. I held her, weeping uncontrollably. Fu Lin arrived late with his men and rescued me from the blade, but Xiaotao was lost to that night forever. The courtyard was filled with the stench of blood. Fu Lin led the bound assassin away without a word. Xiaotao was my maid, and my childhood playmate. Without her, the cold nights at Lushu Pavilion grew even colder. In this square courtyard, I wept, self-harmed, and smashed things. Yet no one cared. My emotions went unseen, withering away with each passing season until I finally crumbled into dust and died in a forgotten corner. In my past life, I was reckless and meddled with someone who didn't belong to me. I have no one to blame but myself. I've tasted the bitter fruit of my actions. But those nights were simply too cold. I never want to go back. That rabbit lantern is mine. Fu Shuer snatched the lantern. her tone haughty. I told you before. If I set my sights on something, I'll go home and get the silver. Don't you understand? Shopkeeper. The shopkeeper forced a smile. Miss, this lantern is merely a prize for the riddle contest. It's not for sale. Since this young lady guessed correctly just now, the rabbit lantern rightfully belongs to her. Fu Shuer turned to look at me. Hey. Qiao Ziyuan. You're nothing but an adopted daughter in my household. You have no parents, no one to rely on. If you cry well enough, I might reward you with a bowl of rice. You're trying to steal from this young lady. Do you even think you're worthy? I'm taking the rabbit lantern. If you dare go back and tattle, I'll make you pay. She leapt onto the rooftop with graceful agility and vanished. Xiao Tao stomped her foot in anger. How despicable. I'm definitely going to tell the Duchess about this when we get back. I took her hand, my tone calm. Xiao Tao, it's okay. We'll just go look somewhere else. The Duchess had been close friends with my mother. Seeing my pitiful background, she took me in and raised me in her household. Perhaps because she saw how sensitive I was, she gave me extra care and attention. As this happened often, Fu Shuer naturally grew jealous and took her anger out on me. In the past, I didn't understand. I always tried to please her in every way, hoping to earn even a little of her favor. Now that I've been given a second chance at life, I've grown a bit more at ease. When it comes to affection, why force it? I turned around, my nose bumping hard against the man's firm chest. Ah. His large hand grabbed my shoulder, steadying me as I was about to fall. Seeing the redness at the corners of my eyes, he paused for a moment before saying coldly, It's just a rabbit lantern, why are you so upset over it? I stiffened. Those were the tears I'd shed just moments ago upon seeing Xiao Tao, only to lose her again. How could a cold-hearted man like him possibly understand? I just never expected this. Having died once and met him again, my heart was as still as stagnant water, devoid of any flutter. After all, the events of my past life were entirely my own doing. He treated me coldly, yet I hold no grudge against him. If anything, it was I who led him astray. He was originally betrothed to the eldest daughter of the Chancellor. Had it not been for me, he would have married a virtuous and gracious woman whose family could have aided him in his political career, a wife who would serve him with respect and with whom he would grow old. He spent 10 years grinding against me, a helpless madwoman. Now, I regard him only as the son of my benefactor, an elder brother I ought to respect. I took a step back, dodging the hands on my shoulders, my eyes clear and pure. Greetings, Brother Alan. Brother Alan was the name the Duchess of the State had instructed me to use when I first entered the mansion. Back then, my parents were both dead, and I had collapsed into the Duchess's arms, crying until my eyes were bloodshot. He was still a youth then. Lad in black, standing tall as a pine tree, though his expression was cold. He awkwardly offered me a piece of candy. The world mocks me as a vain, bed-hopping crown princess, but in truth, it was love that led me to make that mistake. I loved the tender heart hidden beneath his icy exterior. I loved the words he spoke to comfort me when my parents fell on the battlefield. They sought righteousness and found it. They died a worthy death. All of them great heroes revered by the world. Some cursed my father for being reckless, claiming he caused the tragic deaths of 3,000 soldiers at the border. Yet it was clear that in that battle, my father had taken the head of the southern frontiers. Invincible general, laying the foundation for the great victories that followed. They sacrificed their lives to secure a century of peace for our land, free from the smoke of war. Generals Liu and Shen deserve to be remembered throughout history. He held women in high regard. When addressing my mother, he used her family name. He honored every soldier who had laid down their lives and shed their blood on the frontier. How could I not love such a pure-hearted man? In truth, if it were him, even if I had to live on chaff and vegetables, I would find it sweet as honey. But no one believed it after all. He was a peerless nobleman. Fu Lin's expression visibly stiffened when I addressed him as elder brother. In the past, she had always called him B. Why his courtesy name? Wen Yun. Today, however, she was addressing him with utmost respect as elder brother. In truth, he was well aware of her feelings, but she was not the candidate he had in mind for the crown prince's consort. Now that she had withdrawn her affections, it spared him necessary trouble. I won this just now on that street. Take it. A servant beside him handed me a flower-shaped lantern, even more exquisite than the rabbit lantern. I smiled faintly. Thank you, Brother Lin. I took it and handed it to my maid, Xiao Tao. In my past life, Fu Shuer had indeed made me cry right there on the spot. He had brought this flower-shaped lantern to comfort me. It was merely something he had discarded. Yet I had taken it and cherished it. Orbiting anyone else to touch it. Because of this lantern, in my past life, I had tossed and turned in bed, too happy to sleep. I thought I had finally seen the light at the end of the tunnel and brought him to life. In reality, he was simply afraid that my affair with Fu Shuer would reach mother's ears and cause her further distress. In this life, that won't happen. I will put my feelings away. I will behave myself. From now on, we will coexist peacefully, each minding our own business. I have no desire to entangle myself with him. I curtsied. Brother Alan, I won't disturb you any longer. I plan to go take another stroll up front. Seeing me leave, the servant standing nearby gaped in astonishment. Miss Ji Yuang is quite different today. Usually, Miss Ziyuan acts as if she's lost her voice in the crown prince's presence. Her tone is so affected and cloyingly sweet it could be squeezed into oil. Just now, when Miss Ziyuan passed by the crown prince, he'd already prepared himself, expecting her to feign a fall so she could throw herself at him, and he'd be ready to stop her. But unexpectedly, her expression was calm, and she moved with such graceful steps. Just walked right past him. Crown Prince, when things are out of the ordinary, there must be something fishy. I reckon Miss Ziyuan is definitely brewing something big, Cheng Song said with a serious air. The Crown Prince shot him a sidelong glance. Noisy. He didn't care about her unusual behavior. If only she could remain docile and sensible, he wouldn't have to put his mother in the awkward position of being caught in the middle. Did Shuer give you a hard time again last night? The Duchess, radiating aristocratic grace, walked into my courtyard, her face flushed with anger. I think she's truly lost her conscience. If her wet nurse hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known she dared to make light of your deceased parents. Just you wait. Once that wild girl comes back from her fit, I'll make her kneel in the ancestral hall, she ranted on, oblivious to the tears welling up in my eyes. Madam, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I flung myself into her arms like a bird, sobbing softly. In my past life, I had stopped at nothing to climb into Fu Lin's bed. Everyone looked down on me, and I saw the disappointment in the Duchess's eyes. Though she disapproved of my methods, he still provided me with a lavish dowry to save face. Your wedding to Fu Lin is set for 10 days from now. I've helped you as far as I can. From now on, do not come looking for me again. Our bond has come to an end. That act of climbing into his bed drained the 5 years off Mother. Our bond died shared with her, and it also drained the close friendship she'd shared with my mother. No one could have imagined that the daughter of a military family would bring such shame upon her lineage. So shamelessly, to get to Fu Lin, I lost so much. I lost myself. I lost the Duchess who protected me, and I destroyed the good reputation my parents had spent their entire lives trying to uphold. I truly realize my mistake. The Duchess patted my back, her heart aching with pity. It seems you've been treated terribly, my dear little one, to see you crying like this. I shook my head and sniffed. No, it's just that I missed you. You've been visiting your family in Jiangnan for several months now. She chuckled, her voice full of affection. You really are my little ray of sunshine. I've actually scouted out several young suitors for you this time. Are you really not going to the flower viewing banquet? There's a top-ranking scholar from Jiangnan, distant cousin named Xiaheng. Though his father is only a lowly 6th-rank official, he himself is handsome and of upright character. He's sure to have a bright future. Besides, with me watching over him, he wouldn't dare treat you badly. I'd like to arrange a meeting between you two. What do you say? In my past life, she had also nagged me with these very words, truly speaking from the heart, always thinking of my best interests. But back then, my heart belonged solely to Fu Lin, so I flatly refused. This time is different. I'll leave it entirely up to you. I feigned shyness and agreed to her suggestion. Seeing me agree so readily, the lady was somewhat taken aback. After a moment's pause, she took my hand and said, "I'm glad you've come to your senses." She was well aware of Ji Yuang's feelings for Fu Lin, but Ji Yuang was romantic and innocent, while her son was deep and ruthless. Having grown up amidst power plays and scheming, the Duke of Jin's mansion needed a matriarch who was meticulous and strategic, someone who could firmly establish herself within these vast, secluded grounds. In the end, the two of them were simply not meant to be together. The flower viewing banquet was held in the rear courtyard of the Chancellor's residence. Within the courtyard, the young men and women who had been invited were dressed in their finest attire. Some admired the flowers beneath the trees. Others played archery in the courtyard. And still others watched the fish from the covered walkway. The young people's glances met, each hiding a touch of barely perceptible shyness. I wore a peach-pink gown and sat under the pavilion sipping tea. Xiao Tao stood to my left and teased, "You look truly lovely today, miss." If the top scholar saw you, he'd likely blush and be completely flustered. After our long talk last night, Xiao Tao was overjoyed to learn I had let go of the crown prince. I've wanted to say this for ages. That crown prince may be handsome, but he seems so cold-hearted, not the type to cherish anyone. A gentle and tender young lady like you deserves a husband who truly understands your needs. So, to help me find a suitable suitor at the flower viewing banquet, she rose early to help me get dressed. You should wear these vibrant, soft pink hues. Dressing in such drab, old-fashioned lothies all day doesn't do justice to your flower-like beauty. Fu Lin is reserved and doesn't care for bright colors. To please him, I've been wearing dark-colored dresses as well, but what doesn't suit me simply doesn't suit me. No matter how hard I try, it just looks awkward. I wonder what that top scholar looks like. If he's ugly, he'd truly be unworthy of our young lady. I stuffed a pastry into her mouth. Xiao Tao, you mustn't gossip about others behind their backs. In my past life, I sought mutual love and a bond as deep as the sea. But having been reborn, I harbor no expectations for marriage. I only ask that he be of good character, and that we treat each other with mutual respect. Oh, I wonder how I look. Am I worthy of your young mistress? A clear, smooth male voice sounded behind me, tinged with a touch of teasing. I felt a bit flustered and turned to stand up. I apologize. My maid has a flighty nature. She has been rude. The man was dressed in blue robes, his figure slender and upright. Upon seeing my face, a look of admiration flashed across his eyes. It's nothing. I was just joking. Please don't take offense, young lady. He raised his hand in a bow. I greet Miss Ziyuan. My aunt sent me to the pavilion to find you. My name is Xiaheng, with the courtesy name Changqing. You may simply call me Changqing. I curtsied slightly. It is a pleasure to meet you, young Master Changqing. Xiaheng had a handsome, open face. He spoke with wit and had a remarkable way with words. We sat together in the pavilion, conversing merrily, and he often made me smile until the corners of my eyes crinkled. My gaze drifted casually to the side, and to my surprise, I spotted Fu Lin not far away. He had come to this lower viewing banquet as well. He stood beneath a peach blossom tree, facing Muron Lawn. the eldest daughter of the Chancellor's household. Your Highness, I obtained this amulet of safety for you. It wards off evil spirits and avert misfortune. Her eyes were filled with affection, her face flushed with shyness. He took it, his expression remaining stern. Thank you. He fastened the amulet to his waist. Upon seeing this, Moronlan's cheeks flushed even deeper. She was the fiancée his father had chosen for him. He would grant her the respect due to her status. Witnessing this scene, the corners of my mouth stiffened slightly. In my previous life, as his wife, I had knelt in the Buddhist hall for 100 days to pray for this very amulet. I had handed it to him with all my heart, only for him to casually toss it aside. As the crown prince's consort, how can you believe in such baseless superstitions? In the future, do not do such foolish things. It turned out it wasn't the object that was wrong, it was the person giving it. Miss Jingyuan, what's wrong? Seeing my tears, Xiaheng followed my gaze and suddenly seemed to understand something. After a long moment, he reassured himself. So what if his heart belongs to someone else? As long as he fights and strives, why should he worry about not winning the beauty's heart? He handed me a blue handkerchief, his tone cheerful. Miss Jingyuan, has the wind and sand gotten into your eyes? I touched the coolness on my face and snapped back to reality. Yes, the wind was a bit strong just now. I took the handkerchief, grateful in my heart that he had saved me from an awkward situation. In that moment of daze, I didn't notice when Fu Lin had walked up to me. In truth, he had been watching Xiao Ziyuan all along. Today she wore a peach pink blouse and skirt. Her lovely features were so striking they made the flowers around her seem pale in comparison. I didn't know what she and that man were laughing about, but she looked so happy it was inexplicably irritating. Is this Sister Jiyun? She's truly beautiful. Moronlan broke the awkward silence first, her manner graceful and composed. Sorry about that. When Yun and I were getting a bit tired standing outside, so we came in here to rest our feet. We aren't disturbing you and this young gentleman, are we? She blinked, her gaze drifting to the handkerchief loosely clutched in my hand, her expression suggestive. Just as I was about to say something, the crowd suddenly erupted into chaos. Assassins. Dozens of highly skilled assassins surged toward Fu Lin, forcibly separating the four of us. Two masked assassins, masters of lightness kung fu, took advantage of the commotion to abduct Moronlan and me. We were as helpless as fish on a cutting board, each held at sword point as we stood on the eaves in the biting cold. You rat Fu Lin. You slaughtered hundreds of our axe and knife gang members. My wife and children were all killed. Today, one is your own sister, Fu Shuer, and the other is your fiancé, Moronlan. Choose one. I want you to taste the agony of being torn between two loves and losing them both. The blade pressed against my neck, leaving a deep gash that stung with excruciating pain. In my past life, the searing agony of slitting my wrist still sends shivers down my spine even now. Having been given a second chance at life, I cherish it all the more. Big brother, I'm not Fu Shuer. Holding me hostage is useless. The assassin's grip tightened. Stop your lies. In the chaos just now, I clearly saw that Fu dog staring intently at you, afraid you'd get hurt. If not a blood sister, then certainly someone he cares deeply about. He turned and shouted at Fu Lin. These two, choose one, or both will die. 3, 2, let go of Moronlan. Fu Lin's voice was hoarse, just as I expected. Though I had known the answer all along, I still managed a bitter smile. In Fu Lin's eyes, I was always the one left behind. The assassin laughed coldly, whispering in my ear. I didn't expect that Fu dog to be quite the character. His eyes were glued to you, yet he chose the other one. From the high eaves, Moronlan was tossed down like a rag. As you wished. Fu Lin leapt forward, catching her waist midair. At the same moment, taking advantage of Fu Lin's distraction, the blade pressed mercilessly against my neck, poised to end my life. At the very last moment, a pebble struck the assassin's eyelid, and Xiaheng swept in front of me like a whirlwind. As his sleeves fluttered, a clink sounded, and the assassin's weapon was knocked from his hand. He stood with his body partially turned to shield me, one hand still poised to sheath his sword. The cold wind ruffled his hair, and his gaze was icy yet when he looked down at me. It softened instantly. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." I looked up at him, my voice trembling. "You're hurt." His left arm was splattered with blood. He buried his head weakly in the crook of my shoulder, his voice barely a whisper. "It's nothing." My eyes were filled with worry, and I didn't notice the hint of mischief hidden beneath Xiaheng's lowered eyelids. A single assassin wasn't enough to injure him. He just wanted Jingyuan to show him a little more tenderness. "Fu Lin, are you dead?" At that moment, we were hiding in a secluded, cramped cave. Outside, assassins were closing in on him. The flickering torchlight cast shadows on the walls that looked like demons crawling out of hell. Footsteps grew fainter, drowning out the frantic pounding of my heart. "Search over there." Seeing that the assassins hadn't found us, I suddenly let out a sigh of relief. Beside me, Fu Lin lay severely wounded, covered in blood, and completely unconscious. I kicked him irritably. Every time I saw this man, nothing good ever came of it. Let's rewind 2 hours. It was the third day since I'd been attacked. The Duchess was heartbroken and insisted on taking me to Fu Lin Temple to ward off bad luck. I just hadn't expected Fu Lin to be there too. The Duchess's carriage was spacious, yet Fu Lin's imposing stature made the space feel cramped, especially as his icy aura spread, creating an undeniable sense of oppression that made one dare not even breathe too freely. Ahem, the Duchess broke the subtle awkwardness in the air. "Why has Liner come along this time?" Fu Lin's lowered eyes opened slightly, his expression solemn. "There have been many bloody disasters of late. We must pay our respects to the Buddha to ward off evil spirits." She froze for a moment, her lips twitching stiffly. Her son was a demon king himself, having never believed in ghosts or gods. Who knew what he was up to this time? Just then, a shout rang out from outside the carriage. "An assassin!" I was at a loss for words. Again. An arrow whistled through the air and pierced the carriage, narrowly missing my head. "Watch out!" Fu Lin scooped me into his arms and ducked. "These men are after me. Escort the princess consort and Miss Jingyuan to safety." Chaos reigned, the smell of blood mingling with the clang of swords. In the crowd, I was forced to separate from the lady. Seeing me alone, Fu Lin shielded me beneath his protection. As we fought our way through the carnage, many fell, and gradually only the two of us remained. Most of the assassins were highly skilled warriors. To protect me, Fu Lin suffered severe injuries and fell unconscious. "Ah!" I let out a soft sigh. Fu Lin, the crown prince of the Duke of Jin, was peerless in the world. His father was a founding hero of the empire, his mother the emperor's own sister, and he himself was exceptionally talented, deeply favored by the emperor. On the surface, his life was one of boundless glory, but as the saying goes, a tall tree catches the wind. Behind the scenes, he had carved his path through bloodshed. Why couldn't I see it in my past life? I was so foolish to think I could live a peaceful life with him. "Fu Lin, I'm saving you this time. Consider it repayment for the wrongs I committed against you in my past life. From now on, we're even." I took out the wound medicine and sprinkled the powder generously over his blood soak. "Ed wounds. TSK. You really are a disaster." I felt a twinge of regret over the medicine after all. The ingredients were expensive, and I'd originally intended to give it to Xiaheng. Fu Lin groaned in pain and came to. "Don't move." I held him down, my expression focused. "The cut on your shoulder needs stitches. I just stopped the bleeding. If you move, it'll tear open again." The conditions were rudimentary, so I used a strand of his hair to thread the needle and instructed him. "It'll hurt a bit. Don't make a sound." or you'll attract the assassins." He looked at me with a dazed expression. "You know medicine." I couldn't be bothered to respond and brushed him off. I studied with a shaman for a while when I was under 10. Out in the frontier, the battlefield was a bloody place, and as a general's daughter, I would often follow behind to treat the wounded soldiers. My fingertips held a fine needle, and by the light of the moon, I carefully moved it back and forth between his skin and flesh. I didn't notice that Fu Lin was staring at me, his gaze gradually darkening. The cave was dim, and I instinctively moved a little closer. My breath brushed against his shoulder, tickling him like a feather and causing his Adam's apple to bob slightly, though he was accustomed to enduring pain. Fu Lin's heart was now racing more wildly than if it were being cut by a knife. He had always thought Xiao Ziyuan was nothing more than a delicate, pampered canary, but seeing her now so focused and composite felt a sudden flutter in his heart, and an unfamiliar emotion welled up within him. After all, she was the one who fell for him first. Fulfilling her wishes now might not be such a bad thing. The guards who had come to rescue him arrived late the following noon. Falling to their knees in a heap, it turned out that the Buddhist ceremony had been a ploy to lure the enemy out of hiding. His injury was part of the plan. Ended to feign weakness and expose the mole. He hadn't anticipated, however, that the assassination attempt would be so fierce, so much so that I became separated from the princess consort. He had no choice but to shield me, which left him hampered and ultimately led to his severe injuries and unconsciousness. The assassination attempt was like a pebble dropped into a lake. It created ripples, but the waters gradually returned to calm. Since then, I have not seen Fu Lin for half a month. After the attack on the carriage, the Duchess forbade me from leaving the house, but Xia Heng would always send me curious trinkets to lift my spirits. All sorts of snacks, storybooks, and ingenious gadgets. Each time, they were accompanied by a handwritten letter from him. The contents described his daily life in simple terms. His words were restrained and polite, yet it was not hard to see the deep affection and concern within them. Xia Heng and I had already exchanged marriage contracts and set the date for our wedding. Having died once, I harbored no expectations for marriage. I had intended only to treat him with polite reserve, yet I was gradually won over by his tenderness and thoughtfulness, and I even began to harbor a faint longing for our life together after marriage. Until one night, this peaceful and pleasant existence was shattered. I stood at the courtyard gate, looking impatient. "Brother Lin, what brings you to me so late?" Fu Lin's thin lips parted slightly. "I haven't been at the prince's mansion these past few days. I've been handling the assassin case." "Oh," I replied dismissively. "I must go to Jiangnan on a covert investigation. I'll be gone for several months." I pursed my lips and gave a faint reply. What does this have to do with me?" Fu Lin's brow furrowed slightly. Wasn't there anything she wanted to say to him? "Take tea," she said, pressing a jade hairpin into my palm. "Wait for me to return." I wasn't a fool. I vaguely sensed his intentions. Under his intense gaze, the jade hairpin felt scorching in my hand. I don't want it, but he mistook my refusal for a young girl's timidity. "Since I'm giving it to you, you should keep it." With that, he swept his sleeve and turned to leave. I had no desire to get entangled with him any further. I could always give the hairpin to Fu Shuer when the time came. Now that I knew Fu Lin's true feelings, I began to live in constant fear. In my past life, I had been utterly devoted to him, yet he cast me aside like a worn-out shoe. In this life, I've been avoiding him at every turn, yet he's developed feelings for me. I smiled, but felt a wave of sorrow welling up from the depths of my heart. I asked the Duchess to let me meet Xia Heng, and she agreed, telling me to return to the mansion before sunset. Today, Xia Heng wore a moon-white robe, his jade crown tied high, his demeanor gentle and refined. When he looked at me, his gaze was so tender it seemed it might melt into tears. His gaze made me blush, and I lowered my head. "Why are you staring at me like that?" Xia Heng scratched his head, his eyes sincere. Because you're beautiful. He wasn't lying. Ji Yuang was indeed the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. In his youth, he had once accompanied his master to the frontier. Behind the battle lines, the ground was littered with severed limbs, a sight so horrifying even he couldn't bear to look. Yet she moved effortlessly among the bravely wounded soldiers. Her face was youthful, yet her eyes held a calmness and resolve far beyond her years. This woman, as pure as moonlight, took root in his heart like a bud, never fading with the passing years. It wasn't until he saw her again that he realized his love had blossomed into a full spring, spreading wildly like wildfire. After years apart, their reunion was a fate ordained by heaven this time. He would not let her go. Xia Heng had prepared thoroughly for this date. First, he took me for a boat ride on the lake to admire the spring scenery. Then he brought me to the #1 dining hall under heaven, where the table was laden with all my favorite dishes. I was astonished by his thoughtfulness. All of this, the man who usually moved with such ease in the bureaucratic world seemed a little nervous now. Is there anything you don't like? I shook my head. How did you know I love these? I asked my aunt. I hope you don't find it offensive. His gaze was full of caution as he looked at me. In fact, it wasn't just about food. He had taken down every single detail my aunt had told him. After speaking, he took out a jade hairpin and placed it in my palm. I saw you liked it, so I bought it. Earlier, while browsing the flower hairpin pavilion, I had cast a lingering glance at it, but because of its high price, I had quietly put it back without a word. I never expected he would have noticed. A lump formed in my throat, and I turned my face away, whispering softly, "You didn't have to do this. This jade hairpin is truly too precious. Take it back and return it. It's not worth giving to me." What was precious wasn't just the hairpin, but the young man's heartfelt gesture. I had never been held so dear by anyone. In my past life, I had long grown accustomed to scorn and ridicule. Now, faced with such genuine affection, I didn't know how to respond. Seeing me cry, he grew flustered. When I composed myself, he asked again, "Do you like it?" After a moment's hesitation, I nodded. His eyes crinkled with a smile. "I am your fiancé. It is only natural for me to give you gifts. If this hairpin brings you joy, then it is worth it." As dusk fell, he escorted me back to the mansion, his expression filled with reluctance. "People say I'm marrying you to climb the social ladder and rise to prominence. You may not believe it, but I want you to know, marrying you is my true intention. My heart belongs to you. I will never take a concubine in this lifetime. May we grow old together, our love unwavering." The young man's affection was so direct and intense it felt like a burn. I hurriedly looked away. I felt a bit shy as I handed him an embroidered sachet. "Here for you." He froze in place, then his expression lit up with delight. "For me." My name was embroidered on the sachet. He ran his fingertips over it, as if trying to etch those characters into his very flesh. "It contains herbs to calm the mind." He hung the pouch at his waist and showed it off like a child. "Is it pretty?" My ears flushed crimson as I replied, "It's pretty. I have to go now." I stepped over the threshold, but he grabbed my wrist. "Let me look at you one more time," he said, sounding a little pouty. I added, "The princess consort has set the auspicious dates for our wedding and asked me to choose. One is in 3 months, and the other in 2 years. I plan to choose the one in 2 years." A hint of regret flashed in his eyes, but he quickly added, 3 months is a bit too short for wedding preparations. A marriage is a major event. We must prepare thoroughly. Ji Yuang, I'll wait for you." I shook off his hand and ran away, then turned back to give him a mischievous smile. "I'm just kidding. We'll meet in 3 months." Fu Lin's words had truly startled me. I desperately wanted to flee the estate and get far away from him, but in my past life, I'd married him in a daze. Even with Fu Lin's threat looming in this life, I still didn't want to rush into marriage, lest I find myself trapped in a quagmire once more. My reason for meeting Xia Heng was to gain a deeper understanding of his character and conduct. Finding him gentle and upright, the restless anxiety why I'd felt upon our engagement miraculously subsided, and I felt inexplicably at ease about marrying him soon. 30 li outside the city gates. Fu Lin looked worn from the journey. Your Highness, the post station is just ahead. We've been riding through the night for 3 days straight. Shall we stop to rest? On this journey to the south, they had used the assassination plot to uncover concrete evidence that the Prince of Jingyuan had been secretly raising an army in an attempt to rebel, thereby eliminating a major threat for His Majesty. The Emperor was overjoyed, and Fu Lin hoped to use this achieve, and meant to secure an imperial decree granting him permission to marry Jingyuan. Yet, though only 3 months had passed, it felt like an eternity. He missed the capital terribly. What was she doing? Was she thinking of him and crying in secret? The moment this thought crossed his mind, he could wait no longer. Spur the horse on, we must return to the capital at once. He arrived home at the hour of you. Yet the mansion was far from quiet. Red silk banners hung high above the gates, and lanterns lit the night as brightly as day, creating a scene of festive joy and celebration. Liner, you're back. The Duchess was also dressed in red today, radiant and dazzling. You know Sister Jingyuan is getting married today. Hurry and wash up so we can go to that Xia boy's house for the wedding feast. Fu Lin's expression darkened ominously. Qiao Jingyuan. Getting married. It wasn't that he didn't know about Xia Heng and Jingyuan's engagement. He simply didn't care. It was merely an engagement. He could simply find an excuse to break it off. Jingyuan's heart belonged to him, not that pale-faced scholar. As long as he performed a great service and sought an imperial decree to marry her, even though there was a vast disparity in their social standing, he could still take her as his primary wife. Why didn't she wait for him? A dull ache gripped his heart, and even his breath seemed laced with pain. Feelings of resentment, panic, and helplessness swirled within him, and the corners of his lips curled slightly in a cold sneer. Qiao Jingyuan, you were the one who provoked me first. How dare you try to slip away so easily? So what if they're married? I'll just take her by force. On the wedding night, I sat on the carved wooden bed, clad in a crimson bridal gown. Xia Heng never showed up. Instead, Fu Lin knocked me unconscious and carried me out of the mansion. He hid me in an exquisite courtyard, attending to my every need with meticulous Karimi clothes, food, and daily necessities were all of the finest quality. I remained cold toward him, and the loathing in my gaze only deepened. Wounded by my indifference, his eyes took on a pleading, submissive look, as if his proud spirit had been shattered. Jingyuan, will you love me again? My hands were bound by chains, and my eyes were filled with icy coldness. Fu Lin, do you even know what love is? A man like you was born to view all living things as mere ants. Have you ever truly respected me? Fu Lin's eyes turned crimson. I didn't want to either, but if I didn't lock you up, you'd run away. You were the one who loved me first, why don't you love me anymore? I had no desire to argue with him, so I replied with silence. Why don't I love him? Because the price was too painful enough to be etched into my very bones. By the 3rd month of my imprisonment, he still refused to let me go. He didn't touch me, yet every night he would sleep by my side. Even when I plunged a hairpin into his chest, blood pouring out, he still refused to leave. One night, he was drunk, staring at me with a look of obsession. Jingyuan, why don't you love me anymore? He was the crown prince of the royal household, tasked with upholding the family's honor. He had to remain clear-headed and rational at all times, making the most advantageous decisions. Yet every time he met my icy gaze, he would lose control and go mad. I've toyed with people's hearts, but I never expected to lose to you. Is it only when I lay my heart bare that you'll know I'm not lying? He pulled out a dagger, took my hand, and pressed the tip against his heart. Stab me here. The sharp blade pierced his flesh in an instant, and blood gushed out in a torrent. Terrified by his madness, tears streamed down my face. Fu Lin, have you lost your mind? Seeing my emotional turmoil, he laughed maniacally, looking utterly satisfied. Jingyuan, you do care about me after all. With that, he lost too much blood and fell unconscious. I hurried to staunch the bleeding. I hated him for imprisoning me, yet I couldn't bring myself to let him die. Fu Lin fell into a dream. In his dream, Jingyuan sat astride him, clad in sheer gauze. Her eyes were as seductive as silk, and she beckoned him with a teasing gesture. Hi. S gaze darkened, and his breathing grew heavy, their silhouettes intertwined in the dim light, filling the room with sensuality. Upon waking, he resented her scheming and accused her of shamelessness. In truth, he knew she was a threat. He had always prided himself on his composure, never making a single misstep, yet he made an exception only in her presence. The prince's residence required a crown prince without any weaknesses. An almost instinctive wariness led him to reject her advances time and again. He watched as the sparkle in her eyes gradually faded away during her endless wait in the courtyard. The once glamorous young woman now even smiled with a touch of forced stiffness, until the day news reached the mansion of her suicide. He had not cared. He had witnessed too many deaths. He had long since grown numb, yet the begonia in the mansion no longer bloomed. Upon returning home, a lamp that had once waited for him until late at night was missing. The swing in the courtyard had rusted, and the delicate iris patterns on her cuffs were gone. The once vibrant and lively government office had returned to a state of lifeless gloom. He would never again see that young girl, as graceful as a butterfly, brimming with affection. A belated, dull ache began to gnaw at his heart. The pain so intense it made his breath catch for a moment. In the 3 years following her death, he buried himself in official duties day and night, using them to numb the searing pain in his chest. Eventually, overwork took its toll, and he followed her in death. Before he died, he said, "I am sorry. It was my callousness, my coldness, and my selfishness that ruined you." Had the dagger been half an inch off target, he would have died. Fortunately, I staunched the bleeding in time, and the imperial physician worked for 3 days and 3 nights to pull him back from the brink of death. Fu Lin woke up, and I instinctively took a few steps back in alarm. Seeing me intimately linked arm in arm with Xiaheng, his eyes betrayed his hurt, yet he still managed a faint smile. In a past life, he had wounded her too deeply. He had no right to stand by her side again. As newlyweds, I wish you both a harmony as deep as the sea, sweeter than honey. On our wedding night, he secretly abducted me, to protect my reputation. Xiaheng kept it quiet and instead searched for me in private. Outsiders believed I as ill and convalescing in the courtyard. When Fu Lin was injured, I went to Xiaheng for help. When I saw him again, he had grown a stubble of stubble, looking utterly haggard. I threw myself into his arms. "I missed you so much." He kissed my hair, as if holding a precious treasure. "I thought I'd never see you again." 20 years into our marriage, Xiaheng and I remain as deeply in love as ever, and we've even been blessed with a pair of adorable twins, a boy and a girl. The stern and impartial deputy minister of the Supreme Court, who was so strict in public, turned Ed into a pure, clingy puppy the moment he returned home from work, snuggling up to me all night long. Jingyuan. Jingyuan. He called my name over and over, and I answered him without a hint of annoyance. "Is this really not a dream? Did you really marry me?" Holding her soft, fragrant form in his arms felt like a dream. During the 3 months she was abducted, he had dreamed that she had married Fu Lin, that her days were wasted and unfulfilled, and that she eventually died in sorrow. Upon waking, he wept with heartache and began search for her whereabouts day and night, in secret. Fortunately, Heaven took pity on him, and he was finally able to bring his beloved home. Ji Yuang. That Fu Lin is already 40 and still unmarried. Could he still harbor improper feelings toward you? I kissed his jealous lips. Why should we care? He was satisfied, curling the corners of his mouth like a young bride. Tell me, you love me the most. I love my husband the most, the very most. He bent down, pinning me beneath him. The night is still young, and your husband wants to make love to you properly. I still don't understand. Our child is already 10 years old. How come Xiaheng hasn't outgrown his ravenous, wolf-like phase yet? Be gentle, I kicked him, my voice full of playful reproach. The story ends here. Thank you all for sticking with me. See you in the next one.